Everybody, thank you for joining us again for another episode of Pursuit of Purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we have with us a very special guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself.
My name is Melissa Cornwell. I'm the owner of Dharma Wellness Mitzvah, and it's my midlife crisis dream.
I don't look at it as a crisis, but I do love the idea that you're an entrepreneur and you're, pursuing that type of an endeavor. Mm-hmm. So, Melissa, tell me about, where did you grow up? Tell me about your childhood.
Well, I was actually born in this area in Orange, Texas, and went to kindergarten in Vidor, but moved to Houston and grew up in the Houston area and absolutely loved it. Never dreamed of leaving the area till I met my husband and fell in love, and he moved me back here.
Very good. Yeah. So were you born at Orange Memorial?
I have no idea what it was called.
Okay.
It's an interesting story. My mom was hit by a train in Benton, Louisiana.
Wow.
She was 7 months pregnant with me. And so they took her to the closest hospital, which was a hospital in Orange.
Wow.
And she was in a coma for 3 months. So that's where I was born, because that's where she laid.
Wow. Okay. So it's very likely it was Orange Memorial. That's the hospital I was born in as well. Okay. That's the only reason.
I heard it's no longer there.
No, well, it's converted.
Okay.
It's now, I think, part of Baptist hospital system.
Yeah.
But fascinating. Just curious. You're the first guest we've had that was born in Orange that I know of.
Well, there you go.
I used to get a big chuckle out of that as a kid, saying I was peeled.
That's funny. You're from Fruit City. I love it. That's great.
That is great.
That is great. So tell us about your juicy childhood in Orange or from Orange. So what was it like in your childhood home?
Well, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents in Vidor, Texas, and they were just delightful. We laughed, we sang, we praised Jesus a lot, and my mama moved us to Houston probably in first grade. Had a great childhood. Loved life, never realized I was dirt poor. Just as happy as could be until I graduated high school, MacArthur High School in Houston, and started going to college and experiencing life and realized, there's a whole nother part of the life out there.
Right. So what was discipline like for your childhood?
Very, very stern. My stepdad, Robert, was a Marine. So we got our behinds beat with a leather belt, till we blistered, or we sat on our knees in the corner over rice till our knees bled, and don't even think about talking back or acting out, because you'd get slapped right across his face. It didn't matter where you were. Grocery store, Wiener's department store. We didn't have Target and all this stuff now. But it was.
So it was quick and effective.
Quick and effective, and you didn't do it again.
So looking back on that, how does that strike you now? Do you think that form of discipline is abusive, or do you think it actually helped build you into the person that you are?
As bad as I thought it was as a kid, and my dad was abusive, no doubt about it, because I remember him grabbing me by the wrist, and I was running, and we were running in a circle, and him just beating me till my whole black and blue was bad. And telling him daddies don't treat their daughters this way. Discipline for children is extremely important. Do I think a child needs their ass whooped? Absolutely. To the extreme he did it? No. Because when we're young, without that type of strictness and discipline, we're going to keep walking that edge and pushing it as far as we can get away with. And in fact, I don't think parents discipline their children enough. And I think that's why we have a lot of problems in the schools that we have today.
Well, I don't disagree with you a bit.
No. So looking back, and now we're all kind of in our more adult ages, and our kids are having kids and all that. Why do you think that there are parents who over or under discipline kids? There's got to be a motivation there somewhere. Yeah. Why do they go too far? Why do they not go far enough?
Yeah. Well, I think people abuse because they've been abused and they don't know how to break that cycle.
Okay.
Fortunately, I figured it out. I was a very strict parent. My husband will tell you sometimes not strict enough.
Okay.
He would tell you I made a lot more threats than followed through on my action. But my three sons grew up great. They're great kids. They're great kids today. They're successful. They were all 3 Eagle Scouts. I think abuse breeds abuse. And unless you figure out how to break that cycle, it's just going to continue. And I think the Bible even talks about the sins of the father, you know, and it's generational.
Yes.
And so education is extremely important. And parents, there's not a parenting class, you know.
That's right.
So we kind of need one, I think, in society, a parenting class teaching you how to change the diapers, how to feed your child healthy so they don't grow up obese,
How to talk to them.
how to talk to them, how to teach them to study, how to teach them to deal with their problems, how to punish them. All the things. We need all the things.
Yes.
It's very profound. I wish there was a class or a book or something. You know, my wife and I, we've basically raised a team of kids, and man, it's like each time we've got a new one, there would have to be a different book because none of them are the same.
Yeah. None of them are.
We had a conversation about that last night, and it was to that degree about how, well, we've screwed each of them up uniquely.
Yeah.
So
they are all very unique.
Yeah, very much so. So did you have siblings?
I did. I'm the oldest of 6 girls. However, I did grow up with one sister. Going back to that very interesting beginning of the car train wreck, I had a older brother who's 18 months old who was killed in the car train wreck. My dad's mother was also killed on impact.
Wow.
So my mother and dad did not work out because of losing the sibling and my mother blaming his mom for the car train wreck.
Oh, wow.
It was not her fault. It was under just circumstances, but she kind of held that grudge. And so my mother remarried and had a daughter, and she grew up as my sibling. Which unfortunately, I don't talk to her anymore. But my dad went on to have 4 more daughters, and we are extremely close. And I met them when I turned 18 years old.
Okay.
So you're the oldest of 6.
Are they in the region? Or
They are not.
Okay.
I have 2 in Houston, and the rest are in the Dallas area.
Okay. So not too bad.
Yeah, not too far. We get together as often as we can.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good end to a very difficult beginning.
Yes, so much. I mean, it's crazy how much fun we have, and we call each other and talk about life and get together for the holidays and all the important things.
Good.
Yeah.
Do they lean to you for wisdom and things since you're the oldest?
Well,
Do you find yourself giving advice?
occasionally they probably lean more towards Charlotte, who's right underneath me, because you know they all grew up together, and when you grow up in a family, I think all 4 of them shared one room. So when you share one room and you grow up in a small house, you tend to be really tight or really distant, and they're all very tight.
So in that group of 4, she's the oldest of that.
Correct.
Got you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think she's 3 years younger than me.
Okay. Yeah. But that makes more sense why they got real accustomed to each other. I mean, 4 in one room, I mean, you're going to know each other.
Yes.
Very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah. And good or bad.
Yes. She might be 5 years younger. I think Lisa's 3 years younger than me.
Okay.
So I met them all when I was maybe 17 years old. 17. I just graduated from high school in 1982. And my mom said, when you get home from school, your dad and I need to talk to you. And my stepdad was the last person I wanted to see because of the strict discipline. So I said, well, just tell me now. I'm going to go to work and I'm going to go out with my boyfriend after school. So it's going to be late. Got to get up early for school. So she lays it on me that I was adopted and that I have this other dad and he's got this whole other family. And that if I have an uncle that said he was going to take me. So I was kidnapped when I was 2 or 3 years old. I'm not real sure. By my dad. I was gone on the run with him for 9 months. And then in an orphanage for another 9 months, a year, somewhere in there, before the governor, Edwin Edwards from Louisiana, found me. So the uncle threatened that he knew where I lived, he knew where I went to school, he knows what I drive, and that I was going to disappear again if my mother did not tell me about my dad so that we could have a relationship together.
Wow.
So my mom, obviously being worried about that, told me. I went to school like nothing happened. All of a sudden, during first period, it dawned on me what she said, and I just got up, walked out of class. And kids, we didn't have cell phones then. I went to the payphone in the cafeteria, dialed the operator, called my grandmother, invite her, and said, "Mom just said blah 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 blah." And she says, "Yes, do you want his number?" And I'm like, "Sure." I'm still shell shocked.
Right.
So I wrote down the number. I called him collect, and he said, "I've been waiting for you to call."
Wow.
And that was Friday. Saturday morning at 9 a.m., he knocked on my door, and I opened the door to see my exact image. And then 4 little stair steps of me, exactly what I looked like as a child.
Wow.
So
What did that feel like?
It was very surreal. I almost like an out of body experience, now being an older, I understand what they mean that we look like our parents, because I didn't think I
Absolutely.
looked like my mother or my stepdad, which I thought was my real dad. Now I see my mother in me and my mother and me. But when I opened that door and saw my dad and my sisters, it was just like, wow, there's no doubt where I come from.
Right.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So life just took a big pivot that in less than 24 hours.
Huge pivot.
Yes.
As a child, I never understood why I didn't have the love that I needed from my dad, or we didn't have the relationship.
Felt like a disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get it, and now I know.
Now we know. Man, thank you for that. That's quite the story. And so when you were in school and growing up and in the home you're in or whatever, was there anything particular that you were involved in to say that, I was a student, but here was my other thing? Yeah.
Yes, I danced.
Okay.
I danced from the time I could crawl, probably kindergarten, till I graduated high school. And then after that, I danced ballet, I danced New York, came back to Houston, started a hip hop company in the 80s, and that was so much fun. And I got to live.
Well, yeah, the 80s was the heyday of hip hop. I mean, that was where it all began.
Yeah, I had the first hip hop company in Houston, and it was so much fun, and it just grew and blossomed. There was about 10 of us that danced all over Houston. Got to work for Pace Concerts and Epic Record, performing with them and running their events, and it was just a dream come true.
That is really cool. So, who started you in that path of dance? Do you know? Because that takes a lot of money and support and time and energy from a grown person, to do that for a child, knowing from personal experience. Our daughters have all done competitive cheerleading, all-star cheer. It's a very similar atmosphere.
Yes.
So it takes a lot of support.
Yes, I'm not sure it's quite as expensive it is today, but my mom would work 2 jobs. Anything I wanted, she provided. That's why I didn't know we were poor. I mean, I twirled the baton, I did cheer camps, but she had me at that dance class, and she cut hair, she worked at High Drill. She did, when I did Campfire Girls and Bluebird, I didn't realize she was out there selling and hassling that candy so that our whole team, group of girls, went to camp for free every year because my mom sold enough candy that our whole group could go to camp for free. She just, and to the day she died, she bent over helping people like that. She took in kids that were homeless and raised them and loved them, didn't care, what color they were, where she met them, if they were living on the streets or they were abandoned at the bowling alley so their parents could go get high. She left a note. I'm Catherine Holland. I got your child. This is where they're at. Come and get them when you're ready. Wow. She'd feed them, clothe them, take them to school, no matter where they went to school in the Houston area.
Wow.
And so that's what I grew up with. This pouring out of love to the community and giving back whatever was needed.
What a legacy.
Yes.
That's amazing. Your mom was an amazing person.
She really was.
That's awesome. So what brought you, first of all, we'll get to that in a minute. But what brought you to your husband? How did you meet your husband?
I met my husband, Stephen, at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Have y'all ever been?
Oh, yes, many times.
So much fun.
Yes.
So when you live in Houston, the rodeo is kind of a year-round party.
Oh, yeah.
For 9 months, we're rodeoing. And so I quickly found out that was where all the happening stuff was, and joined a committee. I was on the souvenir program committee.
Okay.
And
There's a lot of committees for that, right?
Yeah.
a lot.
Takes a ton of volunteers to pull that thing off. Yeah.
I would love to know what the count is. I have no idea what it is, but it's a lot.
It is a lot. And it is a year-round operation.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there, and I don't want to get away from your story, but I believe there are committees that are working on rodeos years from now.
Yeah.
Not just next year.
Right.
And they have to do it.
Long-term planning.
Right. Because there's so much goes into it. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So now you're a part of all that world.
Yeah. So I always loved horses. Growing up as a kid, we had, my uncle had pigs and chickens and fodder. We had cattle in Silsbee, and in Houston, we had cattle and horses. So I grew up riding. And joined the rodeo, love the animals. I would have my own farm if my husband would let me. And my husband's from Mid-County. He went to Lamar University, and he left the area as soon as possible. He wanted to get out of the area and never come back. So he moved to Houston, got a job, joined the rodeo committee because it was the big thing to do.
Right.
He was on the chicken committee. Can't convince him to let me have any chickens, but he was on the chicken committee.
But he was on the chicken committee.
Okay.
And I was Gannett Broadcasting Model of the Year, signing posters for Miller Beer and Gannett Broadcasting at the barbecue cook-off.
Okay.
And back then in the 80s, it was butt stickers was the big thing. And each booth had these stickers. And the committee men would stand at the doors. Back then, it was considered inappropriate to slap a girl or a guy on the behind. So you'd get your behind whacked and not knowing they were putting stickers all over your back.
Yeah.
And people just walked by, not even thinking twice about it.
Mm.
So me and the other two models got to do the butt stickering.
Nice.
And we were out of stickers, and I was telling the other two models we were also out of autographed posters. It's like, dang, I just need one more sticker because that's an awful cute hiney right across. And I thought he heard me and my big mouth, because about that time he whipped around, and I'm like, got all quiet, embarrassed,
a little anxiety.
Yes, and he came over there and started talking to me and the girls, and asked me if I was single, if he could have my phone number, and thought, well, his eyes are just as pretty as that little hiney was, so we're going to go ahead and give him my phone number.
That's good stuff.
And history began.
And then that was Valentine's Day 32 years ago.
Wow.
Nice. Congratulations.
So y'all have, how long have y'all been married?
32 years.
Okay, so y'all, wow, you got married quick then after that rodeo.
Extremely quick.
So the rodeo still goes on today.
Yeah, we did
32-year rodeo.
We didn't ask. The rodeo continues.
Yes.
Still loving life.
That's awesome.
I love that. There's one part. There's a lot of cool parts of your story, but just to give you a little feedback, the history of our show. Ladies always give us the year. Men always give us just the date. They don't try to do the math in their head. They just proved it right there.
Yes.
Yeah, just rattle it right off.
She didn't even hesitate.
Years. Yeah. Guys would be like, no, I don't know about the number, but I can tell you the date we were married.
Yeah.
So no, that's good. What a great story. That's awesome.
Thank you. Good story.
Good for Steve.
Great guy.
Yes.
Tell me about your academic career.
Yeah.
So you started. And
Yes. So I went to school in Houston, University of Houston. Loved playing on the cadavers.
All right.
Did some pre-med.
My wife is also a cougar.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I have a little pre-med under my belt. Have an associate's degree in radiology. So did some radiology. Figured out real quick that's not where I wanted to be because it didn't pay enough. So thought I was going to go to medical school, and ended up meeting my husband. We had our first baby. So after I had that baby, I stayed home. So I never went to medical school.
Okay.
But I do have that undergraduate in, and have always been intrigued with the medical industry. Love health, love wellness, love finding out what makes our bodies tick.
Yes.
So stayed home with the babies until they were in school. And then I started working at Lamar University and worked at Lamar, teaching physical education to the students, flexibility to the students at Lamar.
Okay.
Well, I wish somebody had taught me flexibility. I don't have any of that stuff.
Oh, man.
I can barely turn my neck. You know?
Very important.
Right.
Very important.
Right.
Hey, we're getting at the age where you can fall down and break your hip. That
Oh.
flexibility is more important now
Yes.
than it was when we were 20 years old.
That's a fair warning. I don't
No
take
kidding.
that personal. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So, so you're at Lamar. You're working with students, and I believe at one point you even told us you were athletes and
Yes.
such.
So I trained students in the Sheila Humphrey Recreational Center.
Okay.
And as a part of that, I got to work with the track team, football team, basketball team, worked with the girls softball team a time or two.
Okay.
And got to teach them flexibility, how to be more agile, how to jump higher, how to prevent injuries in their body.
Mhm.
And it was so much fun.
It
So
sounds
much
like
fun.
It does.
The best part about it was the ninth graders coming in, the coaches or whoever was leading that particular program would say, we're going to have a sit up and push up contest with Miss Cornwell. The older kids knew, but the younger boys would look at me and say, you're an old woman, and here I am, all world-class athlete. You know, what are you going to do for me?
Mm.
A minute into it, I'm holding the perfect plank or push up, whatever we're doing, and they're sweating profusely. And they're like, why aren't you sweating? I'm like, I've been doing this for 30 years. Just stick with me. Or 35 years. Promise you. And 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be 10 times stronger than I ever was.
Right.
Just coddle an old woman.
There you go.
And it was so gratifying. Some of them would ask me to come do religious class with them or English class when they would do a discussion on India.
Yeah.
And we'd go through a little yoga pose or talk about the importance of flexibility and keeping the body as a lifelong thing, not just while we're in college.
Right.
It's more important now than it was then.
It is very important. It's also important for your mind to function well. Your body needs to function well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a good balance.
Mhm.
Yes, it is. That's
Very
why they
good.
call it mind-body connections.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, what a great opportunity to influence. I mean, hopefully some of those students just have kept it for life. You know?
Yes, and what I found really fascinating, over the years from time my husband went there to now, it's become a large international school.
Yes.
And so when I would teach the yoga or the Pilates class in the Sheila Recreational Center, I would always conclude my yoga class with a Bible scripture, but leave the Bible verse, the inscription off, Genesis, 5:6 or whatever. And at the end of class, a lot of students would come and say, oh, your readings are so profound. Where did you find that? And so that gave me the opportunity to give them a little Bible to take home and read or to share Jesus with them.
Without being too pushy.
Yes, I got to plant a lot of seeds.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then later I've had students reach back out to me. They found me on Instagram or Facebook and say, hey, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I just want to thank you for sharing Jesus with me and committed my life, and you really helped me. And so,
what an amazing testimony. That's really cool.
That was a huge, huge blessing to get those little things back, because that blesses me.
Certainly.
Well, it blesses us. I mean, I hope it blesses the audience. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That is amazing. So you said you've got 3 kids. 3
boys.
3 boys. How old are they now?
My oldest son's 29. Today's his birthday.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
Colin is 27 or 26. And then the baby's 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. They all 3 live in Houston, live in Austin. They live together and work together.
Oh, wow.
Well, I am so thankful for that, because I can go visit all of them at one time.
Yes.
Right. A one-stop shop for visiting.
Yeah.
Right.
Who would have thought it?
Right. That's amazing. So how did they arrive at that decision to all three move to Austin, and all three live together?
So Corbin went to school at Texas State in the Austin area, and he apparently had worked for a few boat companies in the Austin area on Lake Travis, driving boats.
Okay.
Our boys grew up on the lake here in Houston. I'm sorry, in Beaumont. They were water skiing since they could crawl. So grew up driving boats, water skiing, snow skiing, tubing, all the things. And so he got to drive those boats. And after he graduated during COVID, he's like, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I don't know, adult, figure it out. Mom's done. So he told his dad, I want to start a party boat business. Can I have the ski boat? And so Stephen's like, well, yeah, you can borrow it. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
So they thought it was just going to be a summer gig, and went to Austin, made some money, had the boat rented out for 3 days, came home. Stephen found a really good used pontoon boat online. They drove to the Ozarks, picked it up. Next weekend, took 2 boats to Austin, had it booked out for 3 days. Came back, took that money, bought another used pontoon boat. Next weekend, Colin, Corbin, and Stephen were pulling 3 boats to Austin.
Oh my gosh.
4 years later, they have 18 boats.
Wow.
And they've been renting a house in Austin now for 4 years.
Wow.
And we saw the water getting lower and lower in the Austin area. So Corbin strategically placed all of our boats on the water. So last year, they said no more launching boats. It's too low. Public ramps are closed. So all of our boats were on the water. So our business was extremely successful this year. And unfortunately, the boats that could not get in the water, those businesses are probably out of business now.
Wow.
Wow.
Things you never think about when,
Right.
like who would have ever thought
Right.
that the lake would drop that low?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Fortunately,
stay there.
yeah. Fortunately, it's come back up, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure that the boat ramps are opened up yet.
Right.
That was, I mean,
It's a beautiful lake. I got a lot of memories from there as a kid.
So
Yes.
so beautiful. And my husband has an incredible way of seeing things that are going to happen before anybody else does. One of the things that I was really attracted to after that first date outside of the rodeo was his intelligence. Just as very, very smart. Love that.
Well, if he sees things like that, maybe he saw something ahead of time when he saw you.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All these 32 years later,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, just curious, how did the discipline rub off on you in raising your boys? How did you raise them? Did you raise them similarly? Not abusively, but I mean, were you?
Absolutely. I was a very, I think I was a very strict mom. My husband would sometimes says I threaten more than I discipline. I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt that they were going to do what I told them to do before I had to spank them, because that hurt me as much as it hurt them.
Right.
Although I found it humorous, the older the boys got, they messed up. They knew they made a mistake and they were going to get their little behinds whooped. I'd tell them to assume the position, and they'd turn over and bend over on the bed. And when I hit them with the belt, I could hear them snicker. So I'm like, okay, this is not working anymore. But they're great kids. They all finished college and they started this business together, and they never gave me any problems.
Yep.
The little one was a little bit more challenging. That baby, my husband said I ruined him because he was my last one.
I can relate to what your husband says, because we have one now, and he's very little. He's 6, and he's about that far away from being ruined.
But you want to spoil them.
Yes.
You just don't want them to be rotten.
Yeah.
And I got very lucky. Although sometimes I was wondering if that little one was ever going to get out of high school without going to jail, without getting anybody pregnant, and we did it.
We did it.
Well, congratulations.
We did it, and he's got 2 years of college underneath him, and every day I just see a lot of maturity.
That's amazing.
Good.
So you've got a pretty amazing journey through life. You've talked about your academic career, I guess you'd call it that, and then your entry into athletics and modeling and all the things that you did coming up. So talk about that. Talk about your career path and how you went from being a dancer to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Lay that journey out.
Sure. Like I've always looked at it as, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, find something else to do. And I loved dancing so much. It was just who I was. But as I've grown older, I knew I can't dance forever. So what's going to be next? And
at least not the same way.
Right. And that now it's not so pretty. I'm a little slower and a lot older. But I still enjoy it. My husband will tell you, if the music comes on HEB and I like the song, I'm probably going to be dancing down the aisles of HEB.
That's fun.
Fitness was very important to me growing up, and I wanted to stay fit. So that was a big motivation of me taking the Lamar job. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, if I'm going to work out, let's find a way to make money at doing this. So kids were in school. They were doing great. Boy Scouts were doing great. So I applied for the job at Lamar, got it, enjoyed it. And during COVID, realized, okay, it's time to do something else. And a friend of mine, Dr. Jamal, wanted to start a stretch lab. And so we talked about how to make this happen. Opened up physiotherapy.
Okay.
And unfortunately, because Beaumont is 20 years behind the curve, the rest of the country opened up stretch labs and they're hugely successful. Ours was not so successful. But I wasn't ready to give up because I like to serve the community. I wanted to give back, and we formed Dharma Wellness Mitzvah. And this is a way for me to have a nonprofit to give back to our soldiers and people with PTSD and provide them with free stretching and free meditation so that they can live life normally.
What about law enforcement and
law enforcement have PTSD?
First responders.
Women have PTSD. I mean, there's a lot of people with PTSD. I have PTSD from being kidnapped. I just didn't know it until much later in life. What spurred it? Kids can get PTSD from trauma, from abuse from their parents.
Absolutely.
So the PTSD program, A Place to Heal, A Time to Rest, is for anybody with PTSD.
Good deal. Yeah. How did you come to that name, Dharma?
So Dharma.
Spell it out for the audience.
DHARMA.
Okay.
And my husband immediately thought of the Dharma Project from the show The Lost. No, we are not a military government research center.
Not an experiment.
Not from Dharma and Greg, the comedy show from the 90s.
Okay.
Dharma it's an Indian word, and it means what you give to the world.
Oh, okay.
If you have good Dharma, you get good karma.
Oh.
If you have bad Dharma, you give bad karma. So my philosophy is give love, peace, kindness, and compassion to all the world around you.
Right.
And you will get that back.
I have no disagreement with that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Dharma Wellness Mitzvah. So the wellness is really coming in right now. I just partnered with Tammy Van Diver. She's a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
And she also has the same philosophy I have. Functional medicine, holistic medicine, naturally as possible. Yes, modern day medicine is extremely important to us, but if we can find the root of the cause and fix it without giving somebody a shot or a pill, let's do it naturally.
Yes.
Let's find out why that hip is hurting instead of going and getting those steroid shots. Let's fix it. And so that's what we do. We, Tammy Van Diver, our nurse, and the doctors that are on our team, we look at a holistic approach in treating the body so that we can live a much more successful life.
Yes.
It just, it makes us feel better. People who have heart disease and diabetes, taking all those drugs, that sometimes leads to worse side effects.
Yeah.
Or things going really chaotic in the body, creating more trauma in the body. So we want to try to prevent that if possible.
Yes.
Sometimes it's necessary to have that blood pressure medicine, and I'm not knocking it.
Of course.
But before we start taking it, let's alter the diet. Let's start working out. Mm-hmm. My mom's a great example. During COVID, she got bit by a rattlesnake.
Oh my.
And so my aunt called me and said, come now. So, and I just got home from there, 7-hour drive. So calling my middle son, I said, I'm exhausted. Will you drive me to mom's? We got there, literally got there at 6 a.m. Called the hospital to make sure she was still there. They life flighted her to Abilene. So then we got some sleep the next day, drove to Abilene. Her diabetes level was 236. And I knew that when I got there, she was going to lose that leg. And got there, her leg and foot was just as pink and beautiful as it should be. So praise God, she did not lose that leg. Got her home, and they said 8 weeks before she could travel. So I said, I think it's time for you to move in with me. She had Alzheimer's, and her sister was kind of looking over her. And she says, okay, I'm ready to go. And all she could remember is she got bit by this rattlesnake. She doesn't remember why. So I start purging her house, cooking her 3 solid meals a day, giving her 2 snacks a day. This 8-week period of time, she lost 60 pounds. That diabetic number went from 238 to 73. Her sister asked if I was starving her to death. My mother quickly responding, no, I'm eating more food than I can possibly get in my belly. So she was eating good. She was eating clean. She was eating a lot. She lost weight. She felt better. Her blood sugar was perfect. You know, not everybody can just eat and correct it, but 90% of us can. Mm-hmm. Is it genetic? Some doctors say it is. Some say it's our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why not give it a shot? It's
worth an experiment.
That's right. Yeah, eating healthy food is a lot cheaper than all that medicine that we put in our body.
And a lot less riskier too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been transformative even for myself. I don't know, for the last, we'll say 15 plus years. Mm-hmm. Folks that I know, parents of kids that we know, church folks, and things would come up. They don't get solid answers from our standard American or medical association, if you will. And so in their frustration, somebody says to them or proposes, have you thought of a natural approach? Mm-hmm. And most people have no idea where to start. So they start typing on the internet, and all of these things come up, from food to maybe something in the essential oil, maybe something that is going to start this process. I remember that one of the first people that told me that it became a diet shift. Mm-hmm. That diet was based on her daughter's blood type, which is a fascinating science. And she's looking at it and she says, well, it's not going to hurt her. It's just food. Right. And she's just going to be purging a few of these things out and putting a few of these things in. And you know that it worked. Yeah. And man, it spread like wildfire. People were making adjustments all over. Mm-hmm. So I totally endorse it.
And it's funny you say that it's not going to hurt her. It's just food. Mm-hmm. But do you realize food is the largest drug that we consume?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I believe that.
And just because broccoli is a superfood does not mean it's good for our body. Mm. So what we do differently than a couple other alternative medical facilities, there's only 3 here in our area that I know of, is I look at genetics and how food affects the body, and get you to fill out about 300 questions and can come up with about 8 or 10 different plans. Just because broccoli is a superfood, it could be killing you. Mm. We look at what foods are good for your body, what foods are bad for your body, and then the portion size. Mm. Some people need more proteins, some people need more fats, some people need more carbs. And the questioning could be, well, how do you feel after eating a salad? 20 minutes later, are you angry? Are you sleepy? Do you want to run a marathon? Huh. And well, if you're sleepy or angry, you probably need to add more carbs or more fat. So we have some protein questions and some fat question in there. Okay. So we can come out with that perfect balance. Mm-hmm. And then within the first 3 to 6 months, there's a lot of tweaking to come up with that perfect diet. Mm. And then we look at food allergies. We have an MRT test that can isolate different foods that make you ill. So
That's pretty amazing.
That is.
Like, that's very
really
thorough.
amazing.
The sound of that.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it like that. So thorough. That's really neat.
So as you just keep questioning and tweaking over a reasonably short period of time,
Yeah.
you can come up with this whole ideal diet that you can stick with for life.
Yeah.
She does what we do. She does it for the body. We do it for the mind.
For the mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing.
That is.
She operates her practice
Her own version of
centered
curiosity.
around the art of the question.
The art of the question.
It is.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I love it.
And
I do
learning
too.
how to ask questions is hard. Like, that's one of going back to marriage. But
Yeah.
my husband and I learning to communicate, and us not having a book on
Yes.
parenthood, like, how do you ask the right question to your spouse to get the reaction that you need or want, or to communicate with each other? Learning to ask questions to people to help them be better.
What we don't
Yes.
talk about a lot, and it happens through the course of being a child and going through adolescence and growing up. When you're a child at about the age of our little son, he's 6, they ask everything. They ask about everything. And we as parents, unfortunately, we want answers. So we begin to train them to tell us what they want instead of ask.
Yeah.
Start telling me what you want. So we train the questions out of them. So we develop this system of telling everything from our childhood. So we practice telling and we lose the art of the question. And we have to relearn it. And we have to retrain ourselves to become curious again. Because we were taught through adolescence to give the answer.
Yeah.
All our tests, give the answer.
Right.
Don't question, just tell me. Isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating.
And what you said illustrates that very well. You had to
Sure.
learn how to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very good.
It's interesting, and it's really kind of sad in an interesting way, is the way, if people who are students of history, I think all three of us have a fascination with that because we're products of all of that full knowledge that came before. But the original college university systems was set up to be that way. They were really they were almost research schools, which means you're just constantly asking questions. And then over time, there were conclusions, and those could be published. But they were designed for that, and we've gotten out of that. Now, basically, it's just a more adult version of the high school system we have, which is just we're going to give you the information, regurgitate it there. Now you have an education, and that's not true. A big component of education is curiosity. Well, these kids don't show up, really feeding a curiosity. They're just supplying. I'm just supplying information, and then you give me a piece of paper saying that I've mastered it to some degree, and that's unfortunate. Because are we really preparing people to? They may have a bank of knowledge, but they're limited on how to apply that. No wonder we have so many professionally frustrated people, and they make all these adjustments. Of course, it feeds our coaching business because eventually they get so frustrated they call us and they're looking, they want more, and they know they want more. They're not really sure how to get it because, like you were just implying, Rob, but that got suppressed out of them, or almost did, until it reaches some level of like a crossroad. Either I'm going to learn to do this better, or I'm just going to give in and ride it out, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think even our school system, they have gotten to where they teach the kids to not to ask questions.
That's right.
And without asking questions, how do we get the knowledge? Sometimes it's not in the book. Sometimes we need to hear it verbally. There's all types of learners, and just reading it is not good for everybody.
Well, giving someone the answer doesn't teach them anything. Having information is not learning.
Yeah.
You learn by asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because then the question is in you.
Yeah.
The desire for the information, the desire for the wisdom behind the knowledge.
Right.
And that's the more important aspect of it.
Absolutely.
So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Do you consider yourself to be a leader?
I do. Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm involved in Leadership Beaumont this year, best class ever, class of 2025.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. So Leadership Beaumont is a great organization here, sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. And I've had leadership positions in our community with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Junior League of Beaumont, Symphony League of Beaumont, Nature's River Festival, Boy Scouts, and then running my business. I'm the manager, the janitor, the bug person, the stalker, the laundry person, and the delegator of the staff.
That's what a true leader is.
Indeed.
A true leader will do whatever it takes.
Absolutely.
Top to bottom.
That's good. That's good. So since you have acknowledged that you're a leader, and I'm proud of that, we have no argument for that. Do you consider yourself a success?
I do, yes.
Good.
Maybe not monetarily yet, but I'm getting there, and my staff is happy. They're thriving. They're amazing. God bless me with incredible staff. And my children are happy. I mean, what more as a parent and a leader do we want in life but for our kids to be thriving and happy?
Well, something that we hope for in our practice, especially, but for people to acknowledge and attain fulfillment is the result of success. Money is just a symptom.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
fulfillment is what you're looking
It's
for.
the reward, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And going back to Boy Scouts, we've been very, I love the Boy Scouts. They're a great organization. And we've probably seen about 200 young men in our area graduate to Eagle Scouts. So that's been really amazing. Very, has blessed my heart so much to see these kids reach that goal.
Good. Yeah, we appreciate that. We've had some Eagle Scouts, graduated Eagle Scouts have been guests on this show. A couple of very successful men from different walks of life. So a more negative question. What do you fear?
Gosh, I don't have a lot of fear. And I think that's a big fault of mine because my husband knows I don't have any fear, and my staff knows I don't have any fear. Sometimes I'll charge out my door at work and give the homeless people the right act because they're flashing themselves or they're dropping paper. And my husband says, Melissa, you can't go chasing after homeless people and yelling at them. I get that from my mama. My mother had no fear. And sometimes I'll say things to people that I probably shouldn't because I have no fear. A lot of people fear death. I don't fear death because I know I'm going to go to heaven and live with Jesus Christ. I don't. I guess I don't have a lot of fear.
That's good. That's
It is.
totally fine. So you've counted yourself as a success. So now, what separates a success from a failure?
I think giving up,
Yeah.
not helping others, and if I do nothing else in this life but help other people change their lives for the better, then I have done on this earth what I'm meant to do, whether I make a penny at my business or not. As long as I'm paying the bills and not losing money, I'll feel successful. If I'm helping people feel better about themselves, living a more productive life. Dusty, one of my employees, says I frustrate her so much, and yesterday she needed me, and I sat on her lap. And I let her, and I sat on her lap, yes. And I hugged her as tight as I could and just let her cry on my shoulder.
Oh.
A little bit later, a homeless woman walked into my spa and was raising all kinds of cane. So I sat right down next to her and got real close to her and like, how can I help you? What can I do? You want some water? And she just wanted to know what we did. So I told her what we did. She wanted a service. So I gave her the price, and she stood up and started complaining about not having the money to get it. And I said, I get it. There's a lot of people hurting right now. We got to change that. Make sure you vote. And then she thanked me and gave her some water and a piece of chocolate, went out on the street corner and started jumping in front of the traffic and yelling at the people in the road. I'm like, oh, this is not good. I got to stop this. So I went out to the street corner. I'm like, love, come over here. I wasn't finished talking to you. And got her to sit down on the curb away from the traffic. Meanwhile, my staff is calling 911 so we can get her medical treatment because we could tell that she was having a manic attack. So I got her to sit down with me on the curb, and I just put my arm around her and loved on her and talked to her until the help could show up. And of course, she was afraid of the cops, and I let her know that they're not here to hurt you. I'm not going to let them hurt you. But I want to keep you safe. I can't have you in the road. I can't have you yelling at people. People are crazy. They might shoot you or run over you. And I would feel bad if that happened. So I just loved on her till we got her to the hospital to get her the help that she needed.
Yeah.
I mean, all of our job on this earth is to do unto others as we'd have them do to ourselves. So help thy neighbor, help our brothers and sisters in need.
So since we're kind of segueing into that kind of advice type moment, so, and you have a staff, and so you obviously have, and we've met some of them, and they're younger, some of them, I presume. So we're looking at an audience sometimes of people who are young, some are teens in their 20s, and they're starting to reach those more aspirational levels. And so, what's some aspirational things that you would like to share with them to say, hey, you're moving into these very applicable times in your life, and the dividends that will come from that. Here's some things I want you to keep in mind from your experience to them. What would you tell them?
Yeah, just you don't know what somebody else has experienced in their life unless you've walked in their shoes. People look at me here in our community and they think I'm just another West End Wanda. Nobody knows that I grew up poor as can be. Only clothes I got were from a garage sale. I didn't know there were real retail stores until I turned 16 years old and worked at Wieners. Wieners used to be a department store similar to Target. Be kind. Be kind. If somebody chews your head off, just listen to them. Maybe they just need to vent. Maybe they just got chewed out and they don't know any other way to express themselves other than to chew you out.
That's right.
Just let them do it. Don't get offended. Don't get mad. Just let them do it. Give grace. Forgive. Forgive those that have hurt you and that have wronged you. Just love big. If you have an extra $2, the lady wanted bus money. I had Dusty go in and get money out of my purse to give her bus money to make sure. She didn't want me to take her home. She didn't want the police to take her home because she was homeless. She didn't want us to know where she was living. I have a feeling she was living behind a bush or in one of the tents downtown, and she did not want us to see that. But she was willing to take the bus to go home because once I got her off of that street corner, she knew that she wasn't supposed to do that. She says, "Oh, I know I'm not supposed to do that. And I'm not supposed to be yelling at people." Homeless people are people too. And I'm not a big advocate for giving homeless people money because we do not want to contribute to the drugs that goes on. And I see that a lot where I'm at. But you can buy them food if they're hungry. Give them food. Many a time I've come out of the HEB or the market basket and homeless people were there and they said, "I'm hungry." I said, "Take whatever's in my basket that you want. I can go buy more food." They're like, "Well, they don't have a refrigerator." So give them the non-perishables. One man wanted my carton of eggs. I'm like, "Well, you can drink these, but you have to drink them all now because they will spoil."
Quickly.
But they're completely safe to drink raw, and that's good protein. And he needed it because he looked like he had not eaten in a month. Just give whatever you can give. It may be not monetary. Give your time, give your service, give your love.
Attention.
Attention.
Yes.
This lady, this homeless lady, I didn't have to sit there and talk to her in my business. I could have made her leave. She stunk. And we had clients. I did not have to do that, but she just wanted to be heard. She wanted to be seen. So I just loved on her.
That's good. That's beautiful. Thank you.
That's really good. Yeah. So I've got a question to follow up on that, if you don't mind. What do you want your legacy to be? When you're done on this earth and your time is up, what do you want the story of Melissa to be?
I want people to remember that I love Jesus and that if I am wrong and Jesus is not real, then I've lived a good life and I've blessed some people
Mm.
and I've enjoyed life. Life has been so much fun. And if I'm right, then I'm going to heaven and I'm going to keep living this amazing life. Even better, because God promises us in the Bible heaven and all of its riches and blessings.
That's right.
But if I'm wrong, I'm not going to hell. I'm not going to burn, but I've lived an incredible, fun, giving, fulfilled life.
That's awesome. No regrets.
No regrets.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're drawing to an end. We're drawing to a close for the show. You've been an amazing guest.
Yes.
We really enjoyed your story.
Certainly.
We've enjoyed just getting to know you. We believe our audience is definitely going to appreciate your story. Chuck, have you anything further that you'd like to ask?
Just more of a comment. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for being this overcomer. I mean, from childhood to all these other things, and being the kind of person that obviously has always looked for opportunity.
Yeah.
Whether it's in those early opportunities through dancing and through modeling, that eventually I see an opportunity for a business, and you just kept doing those things. And even when I'm sure life transitions, like moving from Houston back here to Southeast Texas, you found a way.
Yes.
And then, but it seems as though through all of that, you found a way to influence others, and from your own sons, and now other people's sons and daughters. And but anyway, I appreciate that. Appreciate the ministry of good news, but also the ministry of just good health.
Yeah.
We need more of that, and we're kind of into those things. Yeah, but appreciate you actually doing it in the form of an influential business. And so we're going to give you a chance to plug that, by the way, before it's all over. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. We've got two questions that we ask every guest, and I'm going to ask them of you as we close the show out. Number one, and you've kind of already answered this, but I'm going to re-ask it anyway. If someone wanted to follow in your footsteps, some young lady, and they admired your story, what advice might you give them? Let's say that they're, I don't know, 16, 17, maybe even 18 years old.
My first piece of advice would be to get a good education, because you never know what curveball you're going to get thrown in life. And your path, your dream may not work out exactly the way you plan it to. It rarely does. Don't give up. Just walk that path with humility. Be honest. When you make mistakes, own them, and just keep going.
That's good
Keep
stuff.
going. I mean, if I could look back and say what my end desire was when I was 16 years old or when I was 18 years old, and that would have been to be a Broadway dancer or to be an actress in New York or in LA and on the big screen. I went to LA, and that is not where I wanted to be. So that dream, stopped. But just keep going. You reinvent yourself. We change so much in our life. Every 5 to 10 years, your likes and dislikes are going to radically change. Friendships are going to come and go. Just take everything with a grain of salt.
That's awesome.
Laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, before I ask my last question, my favorite aspect of your story, one of my favorite, there's a lot, but one of them was that you took all that could have been counted as a victim story and you created victory from it.
Yes.
So I definitely commend you on that. There were many aspects of your story that many people would have been like, oh, man, look what was done to me. But instead you said, look what was done for me.
Absolutely.
And you made everything from it. So I admire that. Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. So the tradition of my last question is this. If you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, to you, whisper in your own ear and give yourself some advice, what would you tell yourself at about the age of 16, 17 years old?
If I could go back and tell myself, I'd probably tell myself not to be too angry with the Marine, my stepdad, for the abuse, because it did teach me to be strong and to be persistent. It taught me never to give up, and it taught me to fight for what I want. even though I fight for what I want in a different way than he did, I mean, it taught me so many things. And I never could really tell him I loved him for that, but I do. I have a lot of love for him and for his family. And they were military guys. A lot of PTSD in that family from the Vietnam War. And I lived the full gamut of that PTSD and what war does to a family with his brothers seeing the drug abuse and the alcoholism and the physical abuse. And
That's amazing.
Just learn and grow from each situation in life.
Well, I hope you out there in our audience heard what I just heard, in that she just showed gratitude for what would be considered probably the hardest part of her life to the person who gave her the hardest part of her life. And you just showed appreciation and love for him and for what was done. So that's pretty amazing.
That is.
That's some big stuff right there. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. Now, before we close, I'd like for you to tell these people about your business, about where they can find you, how they can participate. If they want to come check you out and see what you do, tell them where to go and how to do it.
Thank you. So again, my name is Melissa Cornwell, Dharma Wellness Mitzvah. It's also dharmawellnessmitzvah.com. or Dharma Wellness Mitzvah @gmail.com. I tried to make it simple, stupid. We're right here in Beaumont, Texas, at the corner of Calder and 11th in the hospital district next to St. Elizabeth Hospital, across from Checkers. Don't eat there. It smells nasty, fried food. It's not good for your gut or for your complexion. We'd love to serve you if somebody experiencing PTSD. Definitely come to First Tuesday, our PTSD clinic. We would love to help you. And if you just want to come in for a facial or a laser hair removal or IV therapy, or explore the options for holistic medicine, come and talk to our staff and let them see what we have that will benefit you.
So for those of us out there in the audience that might be a little more redneck, and we us rednecks, we tend to be a little resistant to things like that. What advice might you give to somebody like me that would be like, that sounds like some voodoo stuff. I don't know if I can believe in that.
Well, I'm 60 years old. Look at my skin and look at your skin.
Hey. Yeah, there's a lot of high mileage sun damage and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. It was a foil mat and iodine in the baby oil. I get it. And I love to fish. And I have dug for worms and caught a lot of grasshoppers for a lot of boys, and taught probably 50 boys how to water ski at our lake here. We have just as many men getting facials as we do women. 30 minutes, you're in and out. If you've got skin, you need my spa.
30 minutes, that's not bad.
Take care of your skin, eat the right foods, get the IVs. We're pumping essential vitamins and minerals into your body that is depleted from our food. And functional medicine, heal your body holistically.
All right.
Don't just take the shot. Don't just take the pills.
Yeah.
Try to figure out the root of the cause.
Well, thank you. Yes. I appreciate that. I really was curious. I mean, you never can ask too many questions, right?
That's the whole point.
Well, everybody out there, thank y'all for joining us, and thank you for allowing us to become a part of the pursuit of your purpose. I'm Rob.
I'm Chuck.
And today we have with us
Melissa Cornwell.
Y'all go check her out at her spa and get your face fixed up and make yourself pretty and go see what all she can do for you to make you feel better. Thank y'all. Have a great day. Question everything.